Yo, welcome in, you guys, man. Thank you guys for tuning in and showing up for us. Hope you guys are having a great day, man. Samo, man, listen, welcome back. Number one. Number two,
Appreciate it.
I I went out to do something today, came back home, didn't have my phone, opened it up, and I seen all kinds of, the emoji with the tears on it and all kinds of praying
hmm
hands, and it said Tev, and I was like, oh, ish, what the? I was like, what happened? Until I'm scrolling through Twitter, man. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm like, what's going on? And so it finally get to a story by I think Schefter, I think,
hmm
said
hmm
that he might be out potentially 6 weeks due to some kind of leg injury. I don't know. You can't don't quote me on exactly what the article said or the posting said, but I'll just oh my goodness, man. You talk about bad luck, man.
Man, I was devastated when I heard it, man. I've been hearing so many good things. First of all, shout out to everybody in the chat. I was away for a little while, all is well. Took a little vacation with the family. But have been keeping close tabs on you guys and all Bears news and staying up to date. And today, man, or last night is when I heard about it, and I was just devastated, man, to hear that. I feel bad for the guy Tevin, man, because I was really looking forward to seeing him have a lot of success this year. But all is not lost. I'm just gonna say that, and I'll speak more to that a little bit later. But it's just another hurdle for Tev to get over.
Whenever I hear injuries to our major guys, there's only one person I'm going to contact and talk to. There's one person only. And just in case you guys have forgotten who that is, go ahead and hit that, Chris.
Paging Dr. West. Paging Dr. West. Paging Dr. West. Paging Dr. West.
Wake up, Mr. West, Mr. West, Mr. Fresh, Mr. By himself, he's so impressed. Wake up, Mr. West, Mr. West, Mr. Fresh, Mr. By himself, he's so impressed.
And there he is, the one, the only, the good doc, Dr. Mason West, our go-to guy for anything injury related and all things Bears, man. Hey, I know
Absolutely.
we only got 20 minutes with you. And so I'm ready with some rapid fire stuff. They're already firing them in the comment section, man. So
hmm
tell me everything you can tell me about this injury.
Yeah, so we found out today, right? Tevin Jenkins ended up getting calf strain, not on one leg, but both legs. That's something that you don't hear too commonly when it comes to a lot of sports injuries. But when you hear something like that, you got to think mechanism of injury. So how did this happen? Because when you think about it, before the game happened, at the podium, all that jazz on Thursday when he was talking, when he was talking to the media, everything seemed fine. There wasn't anything out of sorts. And the whole plan the whole time was for pretty much none of the stars to play anyway. So that didn't factor in whatsoever. So you have to think that sometime between Thursday and what we found out today, that something went down. And from my understanding, right, that they still wanted some of the players who weren't going to play, the starters, to get some work. So they had, like a morning practice, right? So you get some conditioning, things like that. And more likely than not, what you're seeing there is that, especially when you have both calves, again, that's kind of funky. I think after you had a really long week, Flus himself said having those two games, or sorry, those two the joint practices were like having preseason games. That's a lot of work that goes in on the body. Then all of a sudden you have like conditioning, another hard work day on Saturday, and boom, you got two calf strains. But these guys worked really really hard when they were in Indianapolis, and probably pushed it a little too much.
I've seen a lot of injuries, and I don't know, maybe it went over my head when you were just talking, but it sounded to me like the injury could that have happened simultaneously that he injured both of them at the same time, and how could that be?
Well, we think about these injuries and strains in particular as this big momentous event, right? Like we're running and all of a sudden hamstring goes. And a lot of times that's true. But at the same time, it could be also a slow burn. So, let's say the calves were already tired, fatigued, maybe a little tight from this hard week in Indianapolis they were having, maybe you didn't get a great warm up, all that stuff kind of combining. And then over the course of time, over this workout that they had, you get these micro tears that become moderate tears. And now all of a sudden you have a strain. At the end of the day, a strain is just that. They're these little micro tears. It's just a matter of how intense it is. And that's the same for a grade 1 tear, grade 2, and then 3 is a partial, 4 is complete. It's just a fancy way of saying you have a tear. So, it's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. You could drop 100-pound weight on your leg and it's not going to feel great. You could drop 101-pound weights. And is that not really the same thing?
Yeah.
Well, what combination or movement do you think could cause that severe of an injury to both calves? Though it's just weird to me. Is it more so of a lack of hydration, and we know that Tev also did the Pilates during the off season. Could any of that stuff have played a factor in these injuries?
You got to take into account, the whole system, right? Everything head to toe. You got to take nutrition, hydration, all that comes into play. That could always be a factor. At the end of the day, these things tend to happen if your calves are ready for 100 pounds of work, but you keep giving it 110, 120 over and over and over again. Eventually they're going to say, I don't want to do this anymore. So more likely than not, I think it was probably more something conditioning wise. Some running would be my guess. Just as you're doing that push off phase of your run, you have a lot of kinetic energy stored in the calves, specifically gastrocnemius. That's got that bigger calf muscle. You think of the 2 heads on the back of your leg. That's going to be a lot more plantar flexion, so the push of the foot, but it also controls knee bending. And then you have the deeper muscle, your soleus, and that is like the powerhouse of your lower body. If you have a weak soleus, you're not going to be able to push and power off. So more likely than not, you have to kind of differentiate between the two a little bit. I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world when you're rehabbing overall, but for the most part, my guess would be, again, over the course of the week, just a lot of work going into those legs, and then probably, like you alluded to, a little, not fully hydrated, nutrition a little funky, maybe the warm-up wasn't great. And then you go into a hard run, whatever the course, whatever that conditioning might look like. And now all of a sudden those micro tears become a little bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So my question for you is just imagining a calf strain and knowing that you have to walk, you have to move from A to B. It's not like a hamstring, right? It's not. You can probably confidently not worry about a hamstring if you're walking around and doing normal things in your day-to-day life. It's a really explosive injury kind of, and you can disrupt the healing process when you start running and doing things like that. But just walking around with a calf injury or 2 calf injuries, how is his recovery time going to be affected by the fact that he's got to move around?
That's the thing, we've gotten to the point now, you hear about the price principle, and that was like the old school thought whenever you had an injury, right? Protection, rest, ice, compression, elevation. Throwing that out, that's garbage. We don't do that anymore. It's about, yes, there might be some times where you need to still protect it, of course, but it's about loading in a progressive, slow manner. So that's tough when you talk about like something like walking, right? When you walk, at the end of the day, that's putting some stress in the calf. I mean, literally just 3 weeks ago, I was dealing with my own calf thing that was going on, and just little things like just putting pressure and pushing off that foot. It's brutal. Bending the knee into a squat, it sucks. Like, it's hard to take enough pressure off the calf, but at the same time, just give it a little bit of the load it needs so that it can fully recover. So it's a really tough one. I mean, if anyone's poo-pooing a calf strain, you've never had it. You just haven't felt what it's like, because it's pretty rough.
What does the rehab for this type of injury consist of, really? Is it just rest, or is there something else that he can do to kind of speed up the progress?
Yeah, so if I had, let's say he came across my table and I was working with him, I'd be pretty aggressive with it. And I wouldn't do this with everybody, but I would do some dry needling, try to clear out any trigger points that might be in the calf, because that's going to create some dysfunction in the muscle. You're looking for a twitch response, basically just get that muscle to twitch and then whole neuromuscular system to reset, get those little, you might call knots, to try to relax. Dig in there. You're using your hands, you're using these like little metal tools to just try to get, as much good inflammation and good swelling to the area as possible. So, and also clear out any of the gunk that builds up when you have that kind of a strain. And once you do that, now all of a sudden you also want to do a little mobility work with it. But now you do want to load, right? So let's say I used 100 before, so let's use it again. So let's say originally he could do 100, but once you get a strain, it slams all the way down to 40 because now you can't take as much. You give 45, right? You give 50. You just slowly eke and give more and more load, especially eccentrically. So a good example of that would be go up into a heel raise on both legs, shift your weight over to the injured one, and slowly lower that heel down to get full length. Do that with body weight. I actually would probably have the person do it with blood flow restriction training. That's going to actually speed up that healing process, and you get more strength out of it that way. Then when you're good on that, now you're going to add some load to it. Once you add some external force, some weight, now all of a sudden, once you get that done and, that does not painful anymore, your range of motion is increasing. Now you're going to get plyometric with it. So that's where you're going to start some little jumps, and then you're going to build the little jumps into moderate jumps. And then you're going to get into some running. And that's when you get back to that true return to play thought process.
We need you up at Hallis Hall, Doc. You just convinced me.
Hey guys, we only have a few more minutes left with Dr. West. We'll try to get to a couple of questions before he gets out of here. But my last question to ask is, looking at a 6-week time frame to get him back where he needs to be. I'm betting that at least 3 weeks of that is going to be conditioning itself, just not being able to really do anything to keep his wind the way he needs to. What do you think the conditioning aspect is being considered as far as the time frame goes?
Yeah, there's ways you can kind of cheat it a little bit, so maybe you can't necessarily walk or run right on that calf strain, but you could do the bike, and that way you'd be able to get a little conditioning. You can get some arm bike, you can swim. That's another way that you can kind of cheat the system a little bit. But you're absolutely right. None of that replaces it. You could be an all-star cyclist, go play basketball for the first time in 3 months, and you're going to be gasping after 10 minutes. It's a different kind of cardio. So those last couple of weeks, you do have to have that ramp up process. It's like we talk about calcing for hits. Same thing applies to the cardiovascular system. If you don't have that build up process and you just jump right in, like, great, my calf's feeling good. But now the first time he goes to do a block, the first time he pulls and has to run downfield, are you putting that newly rehabbed calf in a disadvantageous position because another part of the body or even just the cardiovascular system is not where you need it to be? So yeah, those last 2-ish weeks, are going to be a big on that ramp up process.
Well, my last one, Doc. I know we've learned in recent years the toll that the cycle of injury, pain, sometimes surgery, rehab takes on a player's emotional and mental situation, stability. And I just want to ask you, how do players overcome those hurdles during the physical recovery process? Well,
you're absolutely right. It's tough. Sometimes I feel as much as like a, traditional therapist as a physical therapist sometimes when you're dealing with, especially some of those longer term injuries, especially when you stack them. Every player is different. Some players just gut it out and they're good. Some players end up needing, sports psychologists, to talk through some of those mental barriers that are starting to develop there. Other ones just need outlets. What's your daily dose of dopamine? What makes you feel good? Some guys go with, it's hanging out with their teammates. Other people, it's their family. Other ones, it's going to be like, hey, I need to kick back and I need to play Xbox. It doesn't really matter. Everyone's got their things that they do to feel good mentally. And, and that's because if you don't keep the mind right, the body's never going to heal.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Let's get to a couple of questions, man, because I've seen a couple. I think there's a couple starred for you, but Mark Kazak wants to know what's a realistic time frame to get him back out there.
I think 6 weeks is pretty appropriate, I would say. Could you push it to like 4? Yeah, if the Bears were like making a playoff run or something like that, and 4 weeks from now he was going to be game, that first game of the wild card spot of the playoffs, he could be back for that. But and if we're being super conservative, let's say this was at the end of a season and he wasn't going to come back at all. Now you're looking probably just why not? You're going to go closer to 8 just to be safe. You're not playing for anything in particular, so you're holding off. So it's anywhere from 4 to 8, but so I think 6 really does put you in that perfect spot. It's not something you'd have to go IR or anything like that. It's just not really necessary because he always has a chance to come back sooner.
So before we get to this next question, I thought that I thought, be honest with you, man. Before you get out of here, I do want to ask you a question about how you think the lineup is going to shake up. I do want to ask you real football stuff, but
Absolutely.
now I just lost my train of thought. Damn it. Let's just ask you this question while I think about this. Would training like a sprinter help?
In a way, it
How-
can. The thing is, like, so it's all about specificity of training. There's really almost never going to be a time where Tevin or almost any offensive lineman has to go from full stop to full start, essentially a 40-yard dash. That doesn't happen. That's also why 40-yard dashes, I think, are stupid. I don't know why you even do them anymore, especially for an offensive lineman. I mean, you really just care about that 10-yard split, if anything. Let's even the best case scenario, you're a pulling guard, and you're getting vertical, you're having to stop because you're running someone over pretty quickly. And if you're running more than that, it's because you're celebrating a touchdown. So some of the initial thought process, like, your starts, your first step, the ability to translate the fascial tensions from the foot to the hip and back again, things like that I would do with my sprinters. Like, yes, some of those building blocks you still are going to do because that's applicable to almost any plyometric explosive athlete. But some of that, like, full out sprint thought process, eventually you just don't need to do that anymore.
So Cornelius Squalls wants to know, is this an injury that will show up on an MRI?
Yeah, you'd end up seeing like an extra inflammation in different densities, because at the end of the day, MRI is really just measuring different tissue densities. That's why you're going to do it for something like a tear versus like an X-ray. You're really going to only use, like, for bone fractures and things of that nature. So it would be a little ambiguous for the most part. It'd probably just be this diffuse image, like inflammation look. It's not like you'd be able to more or less say, like, oh, right there on the left side is where it is. It's going to be kind of, like I said, a little ambiguous, but it would help you a bit.
Creighton Wilfon, Dr. West, could this happen, I guess, while you're weightlifting?
Depends on what you're doing. If you were doing like some pretty heavily loaded
Deadlifts or something?
lunges that you were also lifting. Like I said, the gastroc does cross the knee, but it's not a primary knee flexor. I mean, that's still going to be more the hamstring more than anything. Deadlifting, same thing, hamstring. Usually with the calf, it's going to be something more explosive, more plyometric.
Well, you know what, man? Before you get out of here, I do want to ask you, because I think we all kind of joined a little kerfuffle of sorts this morning, because everybody was talking about who would be the replacement. And we're going to have Alex Shapiro on here Wednesday to give us a little kind of definite detail to that. But, a lot of people were saying, hey, man, we need Tyree Carter was really good. I mean, he has been great, he's a real revelation during this camp, one of the real revelations during this camp. And my argument to that was I didn't like it. I would not mind seeing Tyree Carter there. But my reasons for it was simply we've waited a while. We've taken our time. We've broken Alex Leatherwood down to the studs and rebuilt him in technique and his confidence, because they did a number of them over there in Vegas. And I thought that, since he's been taking the second team reps as it is, or the first team reps, why would you mess with that? I think the coaches would I think it would send a bad message to him and his confidence by not showing him the confidence to let him be the replacement. But everybody's got their own thoughts and ideas about that. What say you, Doc?
I'm not gonna lie, I was team Tyree Carter. I think the consistency he's shown, and not just to play right guard, but he was getting snaps at center right during the offseason. He played left tackle when he was in college, so he should be able to flip sides, and that muscle memory should be okay. I think it's more about what he's able to do and the consistency he's had, more so than what an issue with Leatherwood. I think he's fine where he's at. I'm not convinced he makes this team, to be completely honest. I could absolutely see, if you told me all of a sudden that he doesn't make the final 53, I wouldn't be like, oh my God, that's insane. But at the same time, if you told me he made the 53, I'd be like, okay, that makes sense. To me, he's just right on the edge. I just haven't seen enough consistency out of Leatherwood. Yes, he's been the number 2 left guard, but it's almost like in Madden where you have your guard who ranks at like an 80, And if you move him over to left guard, he drops down to a 75. But if your second string left guard's a 72, is that not still better? I mean, it's not a perfect example, but to me, I still think that ultimately what you would get out of a Carter is more. And I think the Bears have shown you that. The Bears have shown you that with the reps he's gotten and how they've talked about him and everything of that nature. Now, apparently that's all going out the window. That doesn't matter because it sounds like Lucas Patrick's going to be your starting center from what we're hearing whispers out of camp and everything. Today was closed, and the media were not supposed to really be able to say anything, but enough media members tweeted and deleted that they saw Lucas Patrick at center and Whitehair at guard. Now, if I go back and check my notes to last year, I'm pretty sure that Lucas Patrick had all of 5 snaps at center before he broke his foot.
Right.
So the sample size is tiny. He looked good in the 5 snaps. I don't know if that matters or not. So
I mean, it made all kinds of sense though.
Small sample size.
We were busy arguing about who's going to be the replacement, and it was sitting right in front of our faces. Just kick this guy over.
Yeah.
And so it just makes all kinds of sense.
It was the plan last year, right? I mean, their plan last year, and they felt good about it, was Patrick at center, Whitehair at left guard, Tevin at right guard. So why would you not go back to that if you trust that Patrick is healthy? Because he even was out for the last week or two with his own injuries. And so my biggest question, I guess, would be, okay, knowing that Patrick has not been healthy, let's say Patrick does get hurt in the next 2 weeks, first week or two. What are you doing then? Is Whitehair sliding back to center all of a sudden? You're slamming someone in the left guard. It's just musical chairs that you don't love, but it is what it is.
It disrupts more than one position to me. And you got Whitehair in the middle of it all, just bouncing back and forth between positions, which I think he's more than capable of doing. But what message does it send to the other guys in the locker room, the depth in Jatari Carter and Alex Leatherwood? I agree with Nomad. Like, those guys have to feel somewhat disappointed in not being given the opportunity to at least compete for those positions.
Yeah, but hey, Doc, man, I'm always appreciative of you coming on here, man. You like family on this show, man, because I do love your perspective, man. And I think the people in the chat and all the viewers of the show, they really respect you and they appreciate you as much as we do, man. So again, man, salute to you for jumping on with us and giving us that breaking news and that breakdown for his timetable, which sounds like it's fair to be 6 weeks. So you guys know that. And so I say thank you again, Doc, man. And I can't wait the next time I will be in contact with you ASAP, brother.
Yeah, absolutely. I love popping on here. It's always a good time. If anyone ever has their own physical issues, come visit me down at Ignite Physical Therapy in the West Loop. I got y'all.
You hear that? Down in the West Loop. Check them out.
All right.
Appreciate you, Doc.
Appreciate you, Doc. Salute to you.
Let's bring our other guys in here, man. Let's get Kids. Let's get Trip on the screen, man. How you fellas doing, man?
Yeah.
Yo.
What up?
That was your first go round with Dr. West, man. What'd you think, man, about his analysis and how he breaks it down?
He knows what he's talking about. He's a heck of a lot more educated in that particular realm than I am. It's funny. I was at my son's football game this week, and we were talking injuries, and a lot of the conversation just had to do with the back. And once you have a back injury, you can injure all kinds of other things because your body winds up compensating for the back injury. So I just wanted to sort of throw that out there, and that's my little speculation. But once more, I ain't Dr. West. He knows what he's talking about.
Wasn't hard to tell, was it?
Yeah, shout out, Dr. West. Shout out to all the Nomaniacs. Big up to y'all. My mind is telling me no, but my body, no, that's not right. My mind goes to many different levels when this happens. It goes to the immediate thought about Tevin and his physical ness or not, and his mental, stability after injury after injury after injury, and knowing that being a big fella, these things do not just go away with, time or magic. And, he's been in shape. The next thought, goes to what happens on the offensive line, who plays where. Then the next thought goes, so well, we do have the number one waiver wire position. We can bring guys in if we have to, if they're available. And then it goes to man, Tevin's future in this and on this team. And so all those different levels, my mind is all over the place. So yeah, it's like that.
Hey Samuel, I know I heard you when you said, you know, the everything messes up the rotation a little bit. It just but one part to that, I don't know that anybody caught that, you know, not Lucas Patrick, but Cody Whitehair had some kind of hand injury to his right hand. And so
when today?
No, that was a few days ago.
That was a few days ago.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a snapping hand too? Oh, damn.
Yeah, it was.
Yep.
And so
maybe
go ahead.
No, so you're right. No, I'm just gonna say, yeah, that's a good point. I did read that as well, and maybe the plan was for all along for, you know, Lucas Patrick to go to center automatically because Tevin probably wasn't going to be able to snap the ball consistently, you know. So who knows, man? But my thing about, you know, just going with Lucas Patrick is he also has this injury history since he's been here. We haven't had him play consistently effective and efficient football for us at any position. So, and when he did go into center, yeah, he was good for those 5 plays, but then right afterwards he was out. So, you know, I would still be, I'm still not happy about that situation, about the entire situation.
Let me touch on this, but can I give Brian Hendren some love here? Hey, Trip, can we suit up Beatrice if we need to? Huh? Hey?
Yeah. See, as I'm typing right now, I don't think her lateral movement would measure up to hits.
Well assessed. That's a good football evaluator right there. Much better than George McCaskey. So to actually speak on the situation, I'm not as worried as everybody else is, and I'm going to tell you why. The first thing I thought of when, you know, this thing came across my timeline late last night, and then the homies here, Nomad, chirped it up at like 1:45 in the morning. So we were chopping it up early. The first thing that came to my mind is, of all things, is Nate Davis. And why I say Nate Davis, first of all, is that Nate Davis played where last year? What position did he play last year, guys?
Right guard.
He can switch over.
Well, he's played his entire year at right guard, so that's just a very,
he can switch,
you know, thing to say right there.
I'm just saying, if the need be, he can switch. If the need be, I'm happy with Leatherwood. I think Leatherwood's playing very well in that position. You know, when Jenkins has been out, I also like Carter's, you know, ascension on the right side. I have a little bit more trepidation with the idea of moving Cody Whitehair out of center and making that snapping situation more unstable. That's where my head is. I'm much more worried about the center situation and the stability of snaps moving forward than I am that guard position, because I think it's deep enough, guys, and that's just my thoughts on it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Let me jump in here right quick, and this has got a little bit of nothing to do with what you just said, except for Leatherwood. And I have to do these kind of things, man, because I do take personal pride in making sure I'm reporting to you guys as accurately as possible. Like, I stayed up all night looking at last year's video of Alex Leatherwood on the right side and some of his tape going on this year in preseason. And I'm telling you guys, it's 2 completely different players.
Yeah,
I mean, in his body language, just like had no confidence whatsoever. He had no confidence on the right side. And I'm starting to see on the left side signs and shades of the blue chip player that he is. That's an Outland Trophy Award winner over there, sitting at left guard. So nobody loves Ja'Tyre Carter more than me. Nobody. That's been proven since I was over on the bar room. The minute we got that guy and I started studying, I told Aldo and the rest of those guys, man, we got something right here. This guy's, once they start developing this dude, he's going to be a stud. He's got the body type. He's got the demeanor. And so I'm not saying I'm choosing Leatherwood over Ja'Tyre Carter because I don't like Ja'Tyre Carter. I'm telling you that they had to break this down to its basic fundamentals and rebuild him back up and in confidence. And you're starting to see the player that you thought he would be when you grabbed him. And so that's why I take the side of, what's well enough, you leave it alone. And so he's been performing over there very well. So that was my mindset when I spoke those words.
All right.
Yeah, I definitely get it. And he has played extremely well over there, which is why he's been the second string left guard the entire offseason. I think he's finally found a home. Like you say, he's playing with confidence, and he's been effective and efficient so far in this preseason. However, when you look at what Ja'Tari Carter has done on the right side, Ja'Tari Carter has looked damn good. And we know that he is an ambidextrous player where he can move over to the left side. Now, the left side, yes, he's been manning that side extremely well, but I think the better of the two players right now deserves to play. And I think that right now that might be Ja'Tari Carter, the young buck who's worked out all off season long with Braxton Jones, who he would be standing next to and playing next to. I think those guys might work well together. But in that case, in that scenario, if we were to do that, then I don't think that you can keep Leatherwood on the team then, because like you said, I think his confidence in the organization would waver as well.
Also today, shout out Swifty. I watched his offensive line breakdown, and we looked at the reps, and Carter on the right side, Leatherwood left guard. Leatherwood still, like J2K was saying there in the chat, he's still he's still bent over too much at the waist. He's still a little late on blocks, whereas Carter is getting there with authority and nastiness. And, just head up, mano a mano, if you just look at the level of play, Carter versus Leatherwood. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious that Carter is ahead of Leatherwood right now, but they've had Carter almost exclusively on the right side while Davis was out, and Tevin and Leatherwood on the left side, which is a nice combo. But with Tevin out, now if you're looking at Leatherwood as not depth, but as your starter, you got to go with who's the best. And now, if that's Whitehair, that is not saying a lot for Leatherwood. If Whitehair is still beating him out at starting left guard, as opposed, and then all this rigmarole going on at center, so it's still up in the air, and we'll see what the tape reveals on this final preseason game, and we'll go from there.
Hey, before you go, kids, let me throw this 2 cents in there, because I respect everybody's point of view. I get where everybody's going, and okay, but it's not really like you guys would think. It's not like last year. I think the biggest problem that we had on the offensive line was just the musical chairs aspect of it. The injuries tore us down a little bit, and we had to put guys out of position. The particular victims of that stuck out in my eyes was absolutely Lucas Patrick and Alex Leatherwood. Those were the two victims of that situation last year. And so when guys are saying, hey, we can just throw Ja'Tari Carter over there, man, he's been working right side technique all camp. Leatherwood has been working left side technique all camp. And what happens is the relationships between Simo and his players is they probably told that man, hey, look, you just do what we need you to do and start working over here. We'll leave you over here, and you make gains, you will play. You will be in this lineup. And if it's left up to Simo, I'm sure that it's going to be Alex Leatherwood backing up who's ever starting at left guard, because that guy is a different player. And you're right. He was right about the leaning and overcompensating, leaning his body forward. He's not a finished product, but man, oh man, is he a different football player when you study the tape than what I over on that side. Leave Ja'Tari Carter where he's been backing up Nate Davis on the right side. That's good continuity. You need that kind of gel. You don't need guys moving back and forth unless you absolutely have to. And when injuries happen, that's when you have to do that. Right now, it's not necessary.
I agree. I don't have much to comment on that, but I have to fully agree on the Carter situation. You kind of want the young guy who's played at that position to be in that position, if at all possible, as opposed to moving him to the other side. considering we both like the way that Leatherwood has gone so far. I think he's doing very well. You used the word confident, and I had to second you right there, man. That's exactly how he looks now. He looked very uncomfortable, previously last year. He looked uncomfortable in a Raiders uniform. He seems to be finding that comfortability now, and I'm going to flip this. Clearly it sucks to see Tevin out, but I am actually a little bit excited to see what can Leatherwood do with this opportunity. He's basically been given an opportunity here on a golden platter, and the last little while he's looked pretty decent. Let's see what he can do.
You guys, now I don't know how you guys feel about. I know how you feel about Ja'Tyre Carter. There's been some revelations in this camp, man. He is definitely at the top of that echelon. But man, oh man, my man Terrell Lewis, bro. Terrell Lewis. I got somebody. I don't know. I don't know if the guy's in this chat today, but he mentioned to me he'd rather have Travis Gibson make the team than Terrell Lewis, and I couldn't argue with him, because he's got maybe he's got a certain affinity for Travis Gibson, but man, when I hear Braggs, or I'm gonna ask Herb if he can say the same thing. But Braggs outright said that's been the best pass rusher we've had in camp, hands down, Terrell Lewis, and I believe that because it's showing up on the field when they go out there.
He showed up in everything we've heard in the entire offseason. The entire offseason, we've heard the name Terrell Lewis when we talked about pass rush and the guys who was getting pressure without pads on in OTAs. It was Terrell Lewis. Pads came on, it was Terrell Lewis. Preseason games, it's Terrell Lewis. Like, the guy's showing up on tape, man. He's showing up and he's showing out. He seems like he's turning that corner or getting over whatever hurdles he's had in his past. The injuries are done. He's healthy and confident, as many would want to say. And man, I think he's definitely going to make this team. I know I had a fight with someone yesterday on Twitter about this, but he's definitely going to make this team. He's earned the right on this team. He's earned his spot.
Yeah, I think Terrell Lewis is definitely, if you just look at the tape and everything's equal, he's outweighing Gibson. And J2K saying he wished he learned another pass rush move. Well, maybe that's all he needs for right now. There's no need to display anything else if that one move is working, because obviously whether it be on the right side or the left side against, whoever the tackles are at the time, Lewis is getting home or getting pressure in there. Whereas Gibson, we see the flashes, we see the talent, but he can't be consistent with it. So it's like, all right, we see the progress. All right, keep it up. And it's like, oh, whereas Terrell Lewis is like, yeah, I'm still here. What up? I'm still doing what I do. Whereas Gibson is like, are you going to show up? Or are you not going to show up? So given all things equal, Lewis.
I wish I had a dog in this race. I just want to have a kick-ass pass rush, like, bottom line. Just looking at the chat here, and it kind of just came out of my head. Marcus Zach's like, notice how Nomad just changed the subject. We were on offensive line. We went to defense, and like, why I was, why that caught my eye is because with Tevin out, now we kind of have to think about. We got to think about the 52 now, right? Like, who's all going to make this roster? They're going to have to likely keep one more offensive lineman than they might have planned on keeping, just for depth, which then bleeds into this defensive end situation because they, the majority of them are looking pretty decent. And I think they might have been thinking about keeping maybe even 5 of those guys. I'm not so sure anymore. So, keep it up. Keep it up, Lewis. You might just push your way into that position just based on depth alone.
Okay, Mark. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think that maybe if it's 6 games, if 6 weeks, a 6-week injury, do you all not think that Tevin starts the season on the IR? I would just think that you just put him on the IR, keep your roster spot, and allow him to get fully healthy before pushing him back out there. That's what I would do. That's what I'm thinking they might do. And as far as Travis Gibson goes,
He'd
man,
have to miss 3 weeks if he did that automatically.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
Well, yeah, that's
probably what it's going to take anyway. 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
I just want him to come back fully healthy. I don't want to rush him back. That's not a guy you rush back, you know. Like, I know he wants to rush back, but that's a guy I want fully healthy when he comes back. And he's coming back too, guys. I know a lot of people who I've been seeing, oh, just let him go. Just this, he's done. He's always injured. That's nonsense.
That's just crazy.
Bears fans,
That's
slow your roll,
nonsense.
Bears fans.
Look, we've been down that road before. 2002, we had Mark Colombo out of BC, had knee injuries, ankle injuries for the first 3 years of his career. We let him go that third year in 2005. He goes down to Dallas, starts 72 of 76 games over the next 6 years at right tackle. So, you know, be patient.
Be patient. But is he, how many years is left until Tevin is due a contract? 1 or 2?
1 next year. This is his third season. This is Tevin's third season. So next year would be his contract year. He was a second round pick, right? Yeah.
Okay. All right. So
5th year.
He's going to have to start actually producing, because I don't see this regime being like, all right, well, he's been hurt, but it's okay. He'll heal up. We'll keep him. Yeah, I don't see that happening. And also, kids, to your point about the final 53, you know, I fully expected several moves to be made with this waiver wire and after the cuts next week. You know, so they're going to be names on this team that we aren't even considering, you know, for spots. So, you know, don't get married to a lot of these guys right now.
Yep. The low roster guys.
Okay, Mark Kazak, you won. You caught me on a change up. I did try to switch the subject, but you got me. You dirty rat. So I thought we had covered enough O-line, but we can do a little bit more, man, because there's a little bit left on the bone to deal with. Because how do you guys feel about Larry Bourne may have established himself as a swing tackle?
Well, now let me look at it. Tell you this, Samo. Wasn't Bourne a 5th round pick converted to Tev's 2nd round pick? And Bourne has looked like he has developed, and that he is a good productive piece going forward at swing tackle, because he's looked good on the left side. He's looked good on the right side. Now, I wouldn't advocate for starting him, you know, in those positions weekly, but he looks like a good swing guy if you need somebody to fill in. And, you know, that's what we need, that depth piece. So going forward, if we had to pick between, you know, Tevin or Borum, you know, Borum all day.
Look, Tevin and Borum, same draft, right? Same draft, 2nd round, 5th round. The only issue with Tevin is his health right now. When Tevin was healthy, he's a Pro Bowl caliber guard, man. We've seen what Tevin can do. Now, the talent level there's a big difference in talent. Now, the only difference in the two right now is availability. And Borum has been available, and he's shown the ability to, you know, change his body type and, you know, and transcend the different schemes, which I thought was going to be a problem for him, which he's stood out these past few preseason games and solidified himself, in my opinion, as that swing tackle.
Okay, before you guys go, let's address this question. Mark is wanting to know. Let's do the math. Question: how many offensive linemen do we keep? So we got 5 on the front, right? What is Flus's philosophy? A pair and a spare, right? You can't keep a pair and a spare at every position, so it's going to be a pair at the tackle and the guard, and a pair at center. And so 2, 4, 6. Who are the swings? Who are the swings? You need a swing guard and a swing tackle. There's the math.
Larry Borum starts out.
There's the math right there.
If Davis is starting at right guard, I could see Carter being the swing guard.
That's where I was going to.
We did that. We just did that the other day, didn't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but then if Patrick starts at center, then who's that third person? Then we have to consider Dieter Iceland then.
Well, what is we haven't seen that Steinberg kid, Iceland, Kramer,
Collins
kid. and whoever else.
I think
Lug.
I think the only question mark right now is swing. No, let me think. I think the only real question mark is Aviante Collins right now. Who played solid? Who played solid? Not perfect. Only problem I had with him in watching him on film again was him climbing to the next level. He was a little too slow. He'll get on his initial block and he'd be slow. Even sometimes I saw Leatherwood be a little bit tad bit slow with that too. Tyree Carter's firing to the next level. But that's something I noticed.
Yeah, I have to agree with you 100%. I didn't like Collins in the run game. Pass protection, he did very well. Right now, in my opinion, he's likely the odd man out at tackle. I think we keep 3 centers, Whitehair, Patrick, and Kramer. Kramer's been playing well. And we know that both Whitehair and Patrick could swing guard as well if the requirement is there. Both of them can. So I'm not as worried about this as everybody else might be, right? Like I'm just saying, I think what we've really determined is we've got some depth here. We've got a coach who can develop these guys. Simo seems to be doing a great job, considering. And I'm just in a microcosm. I'm just taking Leatherwood. Leatherwood is a talented guy. He was having problems, couldn't really see the light of day, and now we're seeing a different version of him. And you got to give that up to the coaching and his own personal diligence, not to take anything away from him. We're also seeing that with other guys on this line right now. I think we might be all right, guys.
And also, like Cornelius is just saying there in the chat on YouTube on the Nomad Network, Kellen Deesh has been grading out pretty high. So he could be on that battle for that position with Collins.
Yeah, that swing. You're right.
Yep. So I think that we definitely keep one of those guys, either Deesh or Collins, on the practice squad if possible. But I don't see both of them making the 53 ahead of, especially not ahead of Borum. And then I think you're right, though, kids. I think we're going to end up having to keep an extra offensive lineman just because of this injury now. We're going to have to keep an extra lineman on the roster.
So is that extra lineman Dieter Iceland? Like, everybody loves Dieter Iceland. I ain't seen it. I got to say it. Just me. I haven't seen it. I can't really – I'm not a fan in that respect. He hasn't done anything for me personally. This coming week, guaranteed, I'm going to pay a whole lot of attention to Dieter Iceland if he's on the field, because I'd like to see it if he's going to be that extra lineman we got to hold on to.
All right. If you guys want to know what I'm thinking about what I think the lineup's going to be as of right now, based on what we have right now, this is how I see it shake out. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 10 linemen.
10.
I see 10 linemen. And I'll tell you how they shake out from left to right. Braxton Jones, Larry Bourne, tackle. Jenkins and Leatherwood at guard. Whitehair and Patrick stay at center. Davis and Carter at guard. And Wright and Bourne. Bourne's a swing. I mean, I don't know how y'all see that, but it's pretty simple to me. They're going to have to keep 10 guys.
Isn't that 9?
No. Let me count again. 2, 4, 6. No, I got 10, brother.
Oh, okay.
All right. I don't see that
again.
What were the 2 tackles? What was your second tackle? Your fourth tackle? Well,
Bourne is a swing. So Bourne shows up on both sides.
Yep.
The swing. So he's a backup on both sides.
I don't see Kramer going anywhere, bro.
Yeah,
that's the other thing I'm going to say too. He's played so well at that center position, and these 2 dudes keep getting hurt. I don't see them letting him move anywhere at all. And we're already talking 10 linemen, guys. That's crazy.
I'd say 9. I think 9. Yeah, I think Kramer is going to be the guy that sticks around as well. But this is going to be crowded.
See the thing that we're looking at now, you can see Ryan Poles, the Power Poles compels you, and Ian Cunningham sitting in Hallis Hall right now. Like, damn it. We knew O-line depth was going to be tested. We knew we didn't have everything solidified. Now we got this injury going into the season with one of our projected starters. Now that's going to disrupt the entire, left side center of the O line. So they're the professionals. They're going to handle it. I'm not going to lose no sleep over it because they got this. They got this. I hope.
I agree.
They got this, right? Right?
I'm with you. I'm
baby,
absolutely with you.
Okay.
Especially given the fact that all the resources we have, we still have money to spend, and we still have that number one waiver priority. So, I mean,
it's not ideal, but it's working.
Not.
I think so.
It's a hell of a thing, man. I do like the depth that we have. I do like when they're healthy. I like what we have, and I'm gonna say this too, man. This might ruffle a few feathers, but Braxton Jones, I'm gonna be watching really close. I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it because
why you say that, man?
Nomad.
Nomad. They love Nomad for being detailed and being honest, man. But I gotta keep it 100 with you guys, man. I gotta wait. I'm waiting to see what happens in real time when game one starts. How well he holds up with that anchor on the bull rush. I'm gonna be watching that closely. I do like what I see out of Larry Bourne. If they keep him as the swing, his anchor is really good. And so where Braxton Jones is his shortcomings, that's a strong suit for Larry Bourne. His foot quickness was his problem, just being able to mirror with guys and guys being a little too quick for him and he can't recover. That's Braxton Jones' strength. So it's like a yin and a yang with those two dudes. So I do like Bourne. What I've seen thus far, man, is held up. He seems like a different player, man. So I'm starting to feel real good about him being the swing tackle and being able to back up someone like Braxton Jones. I don't know about y'all.
Man, I don't even want to go down this road.
Man, I don't either.
You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying.
I don't even want to think about that, no, man. But
I know they're mad at me in the chat.
You're right, though. You're right. Braxton still has some work to do. He's not a finished product. He still has to develop some technique right now and get that technique down because he's still getting pushed back a little too far for my liking too. He eventually stops the guy, but he gets pushed back about 3-4. He gets pushed back pretty damn deep before he stops that bull rush from pushing him back into the quarterback. So I don't know. I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's our starting left tackle at game one against Green Bay. But if anything, if it becomes a problem during the season, I can see them moving away from him, man.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're going to give him the opportunity to succeed or fail, whichever the case may be. But if you were to be a general manager of an expansion team right now and you had to pick between Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins, who are you taking?
Taking Brax.
What's that question again, man? Run that.
I'm taking B-Rax.
If there was a NFL expansion team right now, and you were the general manager, and your pick is up, and you had the choice only between Braxton Jones or Tevin Jenkins, who are you taking?
Well, that's a tricky question, man. Like, what's the point?
Tricky, dude.
What you trying to get at, man? I mean,
I was just
trying to say Tevin Jenkins is hurt all the time.
You're talking about an injured up Tevin Jenkins versus a person that didn't miss a snap last year.
But this is
Which
it.
Is and that is the point of
that's
why
the point.
We should have that faith in Braxton Jones to develop his game because he's actually been able to stay on the field and make those improvements. Whereas Tevin is a beast out there, but he's not out there. So, if we're going to look at the development of Braxton Jones, we have to keep it in that perspective. It's like, yeah, well, the dude is out there. So he is working, and we haven't seen the results of all of his offseason efforts yet. So, that first, however long the starters play in this last preseason game, maybe the first quarter, first half, I don't know. That might reveal quite a bit as well. So, just have faith. It'll be all right. Because I'm sure he's been in there, getting those squats on and those deadlifts and all that fun stuff.
Man, no, man. I was out here saying I wasn't all that worried everything gonna be all right. And you it's usually me who throws stuff like that at you, and you're usually the guy who's like, everything gonna be cool. I don't know. You threw some shit at me today, and it hit me because now I'm thinking, Has Braxton gotten any reps at left guard that you guys can recall?
Never, always left tackle.
They never.
That's to my understanding. He's always been a left tackle.
Since he
Don't
entered the
forget.
door.
Don't forget also, man. There's a. I'm gonna say this because everybody. I am Mr. Optimistic when it comes to the Bears.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody knows that I'm not a poo-poo kind of guy. I look for the strengths in people and the good stuff about people. But there is a world where Darnell Wright could flip over there. He's done it before. If they're having problems with Bull Rush and Braxton Jones, don't say I didn't tell you guys that. It still takes a while to get your anchor together strength-wise more than one off season. So if he starts getting Bull Rush a little too much, just remember, Nomad told you. But if push came to shove, Darnell Wright can flip over there, and you can confidently put Braxton Jones on the other, not Braxton, but Larry Borum on the other side.
I'm thinking about Leatherwood, and that's where I was going.
What, left tackle?
I'm thinking about Leather, yeah, and I know he's been tested there again, and it didn't work out so well last year.
He hasn't, though. He hasn't been put at left tackle. I'm agreeing, and I agree with you, kids. He was at right tackle since he came in the league. He has not had an opportunity to try out at left tackle. I'm with you, kids. I would try him out there, man. I would.
That's what I was saying. Like maybe just moving Braxton in and kicking him to the outside might be more beneficial, but you got to give the guy looks there, and that would obviously sacrifice looks for Braxton at that position. So it's a bit of a toss-up, but it might be a beneficial toss-up given that Tevin's no longer here, or at least he ain't here for the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I definitely don't want to see Darnell Wright over there. That much I will say. I don't want the rookie. I want the rookie because I want the rookie to focus on his shit. You know what I mean? Just focus on your job, do your job. No multitasking, bro. Master your craft and excel at your craft. I wouldn't even want to put him on the other side.
Okay, here's hypothetical for you guys. All right, let's say Braxton Jones goes out and he has a solid week one. We whooped the Packers. All of a sudden, they play in the next game and the bull rushing starts. They start attacking the bull rush and he gives up a few sacks. Let's just say the next game after that, the same thing happens. He's constantly getting bull rushed back into the quarterback. At what point do you take you say, okay, let's do something else right now? He still needs some work getting his core strengthened up. At what point do you feel like you ought to make a change, or you just roll with it?
That's my point. At that point right there. At that point right there, if it's 2 games in a row where he's getting consistently bull rushed and giving up sacks, multiple sacks in the game, then at that point I'm worried about my quarterback's health. So at that point I have to do something. Now he's forcing me to do something, and I just don't even want to think about that right now. I want to think that
reality,
the Bears are confident.
It's reality, bro.
Hey, that's messed up. That'll be messed up. That could be.
We're
our offense.
That would be bad, but what if Cody Whitehair gets beat by the bull rush, and gives up 2 sacks, 2 games in a row? What if the rookie gets beat around the corner and gives up 2 sacks? It's you can't play that what if game because you got to look at also what if, but I don't think Simo, Flus, Getsy, Poles would put him in that position if they did not feel confident he could do that in practice or has shown enough in practice. If in practice he's given up that bull rush time and time again, they're not going to put him out there in a starting position.
We don't necessarily have big serious bull.
We hope.
We have one big bull rush defensive end that's really, really good. Actually, 2 of them, and that's D Walk and Rasheem Green, who primarily lines up on the other side of the ball. So he didn't have to deal with Rasheem Green, but D Walk put work on it. He definitely put work on him. So it's a bunch of D Walkers out there, and all we're saying is how long of a string or a hook do you give the guys? All we ask.
But it's like, who are you replacing with?
This is what I'm saying. Maybe you replace him with Leatherwood. Maybe Leatherwood is a viable option, Borum is also an option that we'd love to stay away from, but maybe he's improved. Like we've definitely seen some improvement from him over the last couple of weeks. But they kind of like right now is the time to you know what? Maybe this is the best thing to happen, right? Like let's just flip things around. Maybe it was a good thing for Tevin to get hurt, so they can actually key in on how they are going to utilize the depth. Right, we've identified that we have some depth, which is a great thing. Now we have to key in on how to actually best utilize that depth. Because from a contingency perspective, those what ifs are extremely important, Trip. Like they're very important.
So
You're right.
Don't Kellen Beach also on the left side. He's been playing there as well. Kellen.
That's true. That's true. That there's another guy they could look at that left side again, depending on the situation. And I'm gonna bring up another negative thing. This is I was on a high and now we're going in the other direction. The other negative thing is the fact that Simo didn't really have him tested with the bull rush last year, and that kind of came out earlier this year when Dom Rob was saying I didn't even use it. So we have seen him tested a little bit more so this time around, which is a good thing, right? Has he done well against the bull rush? Not necessarily. So Nomad's 100%, man. Maybe this becomes a factor as we move forward. And right now might be the best possible time to look at that, get an idea and a feel about it, and potentially plan for contingency if it becomes an issue.
Hey, fellas, let me Cornelius and Derek Carter. Listen, man, I'm Braxton Jones. I'm Braxton Jones headquarter. But what I'm trying to describe to you guys is some real football, core strength, and conditioning stuff that I've never seen someone be able to correct in one offseason.
In a year.
You know, I mean, can I be wrong? Absolutely. I could be dead ass wrong about that. He could have fixed that, and they could have been giving him work strictly on bull rushing in practice, and we don't know all about that. And I hope it's better. All I'm talking about is if it isn't, how confident are we in what we have around us to help out if he can't get it done? That's all I'm saying.
But the hard part about that is the frailty at every position is so razor thin that alternative is now throwing everything into flux, and there goes the entire offensive line. Like, oh damn.
So the one thing to be said here.
And there goes the offense at that point in time. Then, if we don't have an offensive line, then we don't have much of an offense that we can use. I'm hoping that, Braxton doesn't have to block as long this year. And, our short passing game is going to be a lot better, right? Braxton, I agree with you, Nomad. He hasn't developed the strength. It's showing on the field. You can look at him and tell he hasn't developed that lower body strength, man. His legs still look like too small, like toothpicks. If you look at him, his legs, and you look at Wright's legs, you're going to see a stark difference. However, technique matters. Like if he can learn proper technique to, allow himself to, slow that bull rush down. He doesn't have to stop it. He just has to slow it down enough time for just JF1 to get that pass off, man. So that's what we're hoping. Like we're not going to be dropping back 7 yards deep and not helping him. J2K made a good point. Like if we know that that's an issue, we're going to have to get some tight ends and running backs over there to help Chip and, get us through the year. But I'm hoping that it's not that bad to the point where we can't keep him there, but it's not completely improved. I agree with that.
Guys, don't forget to hit the like button. It definitely helps us in our endeavors. You guys got us to over 500, and we're zooming now. We're on our way to 1,000 right now, man. When we get to 1,000, forget it, man. There's no looking back after that, man. This network ain't going nowhere. We're here to stay. It just gets better after that with the amount of support that you and the love that you guys give us, man. Don't ever stop doing that. Don't forget before you come in the show, or if you get into the show, step out and go hit the like button, man. It's not that hard. So just remember that, guys. Remember that all the time. But hey, man, I hate being the voice of pessimism. I hate it.
Man.
I hate it, but
You right though. You right what you seeing, and you said you just calling it out, and I just don't want to. It's just
They're giving me hell
scary to
for
think
it, but,
about, man.
you
It's
know
scary to think about.
what makes me feel better though, Sam. I'm just gonna be honest with you, is the play of Larry Borum, knowing that he's there. The play will be the options that we have in Alex Leatherwood if they want to trot him over there to the left tackle. I know for a fact that that Darnell Wright can do it if given the opportunity. I know we want to keep him on one side, work his technique over there. We know he can do it. I've seen him do it on tape, and so
he can do it.
I might be less than optimistic right now about Braxton Jones. I am optimistic about Braxton Jones. You might think I am not optimistic about Braxton Jones, but dude, he gonna have to show me, man, because I just have never seen that. I just have never seen that. He could prove me absolutely wrong week 1, week 2, week 3, and we'll never talk about it again, man. But just remember, the old Nomad told you, bro. That's all I'm gonna tell you. So
B-Rex, show Nomad what's up, baby. If you watching this, show Nomad what's up, B-Rex.
Hey, man. Hey, well, let's take a quick commercial break, man, and keep you guys informed about what we do, man.
Hey, you Nomaniacs, don't forget to follow all the Nomad Network content. Find us on Facebook.
Nomad Live. Nomad at Night.
And I am Alpha in the kitchen.
And all the most popular podcast streaming platforms like Amazon, Spotify, and Apple Music. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Man, Trip, I don't know what you fed. You must have fed Beatrice some of them sardines, man. She's stinking.
Hey, sometimes you got to love the funk of your woman.
I don't know about that.
Funk out of your woman.
You know, like at the end of the day, when you know you rubbing feet, watching a movie, you know, you flexing and chilling, and you get your fingers going between the toes, and you get all that schmutz coming out of there from the day. You know, sometimes you got to sneak in that little.
Oh no,
that's my boo boo right there. That's
right. Let's go defense.
He put it on the
Let's change that subject real quick there.
Let's
Thanks,
go
Mark.
defense, man. We spent ample time on the offense. Oh my God, I can't get that out of my head. So let's talk.
Oh my goodness.
Hey man, Mr. Terrell Lewis, I think he's a lock for the team. What do I think about Travis Gibson? I seen a tail off as compared to the first preseason game and the last preseason game. It was definitely a difference in him. You saw him in spurts. Now he did provide some pressures. I think overall, might have seen a number that said he provided 12. I don't know how accurate that is, but yeah, I mean, I still think he's a long shot to make the team. But he's got
Travis
a
Gibson?
Yeah, I really do.
Yeah, really.
I thought so at first too, Nomad. I thought so at first, but if he was a long shot to make the team, I thought he would have played more last week. He didn't play a lot last week. That's what made me feel like, you know, maybe they feel like he's made the team.
They take him out when they think the person has kind of solidified his position. They had him on in crap time, like down to the last seconds.
I feel that had more to do with the potential of them pulling out a win, and the fumble kind of ruined that. I don't think he's not going to make this team at all. And what's interesting is we sit and we've spent a lot of time comparing the progress of Lewis versus Gibson. I'm not sure if that's really the battle. Like, it was the battle. I think both of those guys have won that battle. And now we have to sort of take a step back and look at the other guys. I don't think Dom Rob's done very much this last 2 weeks at all. There hasn't been big words about Dom Rob from a practice perspective, I didn't see much from Dominique Robinson in the game. I'm not up on Dom Rob at all, but to make matters worse, I think Rasheem Green had it even worse showing these last 2 weeks. So if I was looking at who's going to make this roster and who was ahead of Travis Gibson on that depth chart, I would be looking at those two guys to be on the bubble, mostly Green.
Okay.
Because the other he's got reps.
Let me add a little context, knowing the 4-3 scheme, how I know it. For the edge guys, right? For the edge guys, it's not always what it appears to be. You think they're telling them, hey, go hard as hell after the quarterback, get around him, get under him, do whatever you got to do, just get to the quarterback. You think it's that every play. It's not. Sometimes they're absolutely being asked to absolutely crush the edge as they're crushing the interior. So you'll put on that tape. Anybody that wants to do that, you can go check out the tape and you'll see for yourself. You will notice how many times you see Dominique Robinson, but more importantly, Rasheem Green on the edge. He's intending to run over that defensive lineman. I mean, that offensive lineman, that tackle, and kind of run him back into the pocket.
Right into the
cube. He's not even going to try to rush the quarterback. He's just out there to crush the edge. Mm-hmm. So just know that.
Well, the thing is, it comes down to a numbers game. And they're going to be guys that are cut that are talented or that, we like. And just looking at what's happening this preseason, we're pretty sure that Green and Walker are locks.
Green? Lewis, you pretty sure that Green is a lock?
I'm pretty sure. Well, I would think so because he's not like injured. He just has not been playing a lot. But when he has played, he's been solid. And he seems like the veteran that they kind of brought in. I mean, I could be mistaken. I don't know. Lewis has proven his ability to get to the quarterback time after time, week after week. So it comes down to, your Robinson, your Gibson, and maybe a Jones, DeAnthony Jones.
He's good.
Has been firing off. So just looking at the numbers, Robinson is his second year of his rookie contract, who's new to the position, the UDFAs, and then Gibson, who's in his contract year, who should be right on that precipice of like, yeah, look at me. I'm making a name for myself now buying my jersey. Ain't nobody buying this damn jersey with the way he's been showing out. I mean, he shows up and then he disappears. He shows up and then he disappears. And it's like, if we had the consistency, yeah, sure, I would advocate keeping him on the roster. But just with the inconsistency at the stage of his career where he should be ready to peak, but he's not, like, he would be odd man out for me. That's just the way it is.
Before the next guy goes, let me point out this IP man, Tay. He's saying, I'm not because he's agreeing with me, but he's saying it right. He says exactly, no, man. One guy is the pass rusher and one guy is the run stuffer. Just like it was with Lovey. Yeah. You have to notice that when you're watching plays in sequence so that you're not confused with, okay, why is this guy not getting around the tackle and not trying to get to the quarterback? You got to know what you're looking at.
Yeah, he's not trying to.
Exactly. So that's just the point I was making. Good point, man. IP man, Tay. That was great.
So AC Adam was saying that you can move Green inside as well. And I actually saw them do that for a couple of snaps here in I believe the last game. That's an interesting prospect and reason for them to potentially keep him. Jones played his butt off last week. I thought he was fantastic. I'm still looking. I'm looking for more. So when we say contract year, it's also potentially a contract year for Terrell Lewis too. But at the end of the day, I think I want to see more from Dom Rob for them to keep him over Gibson. I think Gibson has the better. I think Gibson has the better floor and Dom Rob the better ceiling. I just haven't seen him, do anything towards that ceiling.
What has Gibson done, though, man? Gibson last week, this is my problem with Gibson right now, man. Like you said, it's a contract year. Last week, the guy played like his freaking hair was on fire. Excuse me, this is Nomad Live, right? The guy, he was just tearing it up the entire game. The entire time he was out there, gassed. He was giving 110% effort. This week, when I saw him on tape, I didn't see that same effort. And that's one thing that only he can control is his effort. You know, if he's not going to give me that effort that I've seen now, I can see that there's a difference in effort. Then that's my problem with you. Now I got to come and have a conversation with you, because if I see you last week showing 110% effort, and this week you just coasting a little bit, and you might have got some pressures. He did get a few pressures this week, but you can see the difference in his play, and that's what I don't want to see from any of my players. And as far as Don Rob goes, man, Don Rob is still a project. His offense, his run defense has gotten a lot better, man. The guy, he has some talent that you can't teach, that athleticism, that bend. He has some stuff that you can't teach, and he still has to learn the position. I think having Yannick in the room is definitely going to help him, just like it's going to help a lot of the other guys in the room. I think it's going to help Terrell Lewis a lot too, having Yannick in that room. And who else? Green hasn't done anything to me, man. I know he has the ability to be kicked inside. We don't need him inside. We have DeMarcus Walker can go inside, but we don't need him.
He is on a 1 year, $2.5 million deal, so it's not like long-term money.
Right.
In a scheme like
he's
this,
the God man now.
In a scheme like this, you do want at least two ends that you be able to kick inside, and so.
But they've got depth on the inside already. Like, they don't necessarily need it.
This is certain formations and certain pass rushing concepts. You like a little bit more speed on the interior as well. So you would like to have two guys that you can.
I was just gonna say you could do that with Walker too.
Walker,
two guys, Walker and Green.
You think Green is the only other guy? You don't think
somebody got to
not Yannick can't kick in there.
Somebody got to go though, man. Somebody got to go. I
need two
especially
guys
at that position.
Yeah, you need two guys with the speed and power combination. I don't think Dominique Robinson is there yet. He's got the speed, but I don't know if he has the power just yet.
So
he's tried it.
He's looking better though.
So here's where we are. We're talking about a developmental prospect in Dom Rob versus a journeyman who isn't really showing it quite as much as what we'd like him to show, but has the potential to kick inside. I don't see it being enough. And that's just me. Somebody got to go. If we can keep them all, fantastic. But somebody got to go. I think Green is the one, the odd man out, unfortunately, in this scenario. And the reason that I'm really saying this is because DeAnthony Jones popped a couple of times in this past game and in the previous game, if you guys were paying attention. Jones, I left him out of my initial portion of this conversation because I think he's a lock. I think he's shown quite a bit by way of where he should be right now and what they expect from him now.
Look at it this way. All right, when you're talking about the ends and the edge rushers, this is what you're looking for when you got a 4-3 and you want to run different concepts. You want to run your base formation. You want to run your sub package with the NASCAR package, and then you definitely need two edge rushers that can kick inside on certain packages. You got to have that, but you also got to have your pass rush specific players like you got to have your Yannick, or people want to call him one trick pony or whatever they want to call him. You want to call Terrell Lewis a one trick pony. You've got to have that aspect on the top side, and on the back side you got your run crackers. And then the guys that can kick inside. All we trying to figure out who's the two edge guys, and I think it's pretty clear to me is Yannick and Terrell Lewis. And who is your crackers down there? Who are your crackers down there that can kick inside? I think, to be honest with you, performance-wise, Dominique Robinson is the least impressive of them all so far this preseason. I'm just being honest with you about it.
Can't argue with that one. I can't.
Yeah, you're right. I haven't seen any production. I haven't seen a lot of pressures created. You're right. If you want to go there, yeah.
I can't argue with that. Go.
Because Green has kicked in, but that's because Green has that opportunity to kick in and do some things and look a little different. He can use his quickness inside and his strength. He has the strength to hold up inside. But do we think that Travis Gibson can kick inside? You think he has the strength to do that? Because I know that he's a guy that can set that edge, though. He has the strength to set that edge.
He's He's shown that he can. He has the ability. Can he do it consistently? I thought actually I was talking to Greg Gabriel one time in the chat at the bar room, and I was asking him, did he think that Travis Gibson can kick inside? He said outright, yeah. He's got the size and ability and the strength. You know what I mean? It's just a technique thing. When you kick inside, it's just about, you know, which shoulder do you want to put leverage on, which angle are it's little things like that, man, that it's not hard for someone like him to adjust to. So I hear J2K. He could absolutely make a case for Travis Gibson in that aspect.
So then I guess the two thing Pill is coming down to is Don, Rob, and Green. Which of those two?
Who do you keep?
Well, you know,
do you keep the developmental prospect or not?
You know, that's another position group to put a pin in. How many do we keep? Who makes it? And are the names that we are looking at now, are those the actual final names we're going to be picking from?
So we are stacked at defensive tackle too, and you got to consider that too. That's going to mess the numbers up at defensive end. We may keep one less defensive end just because we have to keep an extra tackle. Because now that guy named Travis Bell, we can't stash that dude anymore.
Nope.
So I want to ask you guys in the chat, everybody watching this show, I don't care what, you can watch any show you want to. I support that. But tell me a show that gives you this much hard-hitting coverage and detail about what the hell you're looking at other than the Nomad Network. Find those guys for me, and I'll send them flowers. But with that being said, man, y'all ready to wrap this thing up, man? We're going to go around the horn one more time, man.
Well, before we go, real quick, just announce there was a couple moves made yesterday or today. A couple guys on IR.
Yeah, we waived injured. I think it was a tight end. I can't remember the guy's name. And then we had Jared Pinkney, and then we had what's his name?
Colbert,
a safety go on IR. And so what that means is they're gonna have to make a move, at least one or two. I don't know. But I did share on Twitter, if you guys want to go check that out on Twitter. It was a safety called Bennett Williams. He's actually, I have a video on him, but I can't get it right now. We don't have time. But Bennett Williams was a guy that I scouted from Oregon, man, and he's a really, really solid safety. He's got all the traits other than the arm length that somebody like Poles would be attracted to, man. Speed, ball tracking, tackling ability, just a nose for the ball, man. So he just got cut from a safety-heavy team, not because of his talent. So just look out for that name, Bennett Williams, safety from Oregon, man. So they're going to make a move somewhere. I wish somebody had their Twitter refresh right now to tell us if anything happened, but they're going to need that depth at safety. Yep. Let's go around the horn, fellas, so we can get up out of here.
Yes, welcome. Happy to be back, man. Happy with what I'm seeing on the field, man. Terrible news about our guy Tevin Jenkins, but all will be well. The power of polls compels you. I believe that, like Tripp said, they're going to figure the offensive line out, if nothing else. Salute to everybody in the chat. Miss you guys. Looking forward to the weeks to come in the season, baby. We're almost there.
Kids.
Oh, sure. Anyways, love you guys. Big love in the chat. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for liking, sharing, and supporting the squad. No maniacs do it all day long. I'm not really, I'm not as worried as everybody else might be. I think we have the depth. I'm much more worried about what these cuts are going to look like as we move forward. I think that's where we are now. So I'm happy to watch one more week of training camp, one more week of preseason, so that they can actually evaluate that depth a little bit more and get a better picture as to what we're going to be looking at for the first 6 weeks of the season. That being said, y'all, love y'all. Bear down.
A lot of why I was reserved with my excitement for the expectations of this team were for reasons like this. We got to figure stuff out before we can advance and go forward. But the exciting part is our floor is a lot higher than it has been, in recent history. So the position groups and the guys that we're talking about being on the bubble, in previous seasons, it's like, oh yeah, we're definitely keeping those guys, but now it's like, yeah, they're not going to make this team because the talent is going that much higher. And so as the competition rises, as we get rid of guys, I'm just looking forward to it and just hoping everybody can just stay as healthy as possible. Big up, No Maniacs.
That's right. Thank you guys. No Maniacs, y'all are wild. Y'all been great in the chat today, man. Even when you didn't like what I had to say or anybody else. Thank you for being here and putting up with us and our crap. And man, hey, like I said, I'll stand on this again, man. Find me a show that can give you this much hard-hitting coverage and detail about what we're looking at out there on that field, and I will send them flowers. But with that being said, man, hey, we appreciate you guys. And before I get out of here, don't forget Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Central, we got Alex Shapiro from NBC Sports Chicago coming on with us to give us some camp updates where he can tell us, but then he can't tell us everything he's been seeing on the field. So he'll give us some information, man. So stay tuned for that on Wednesday. And before we get out of here, I always got this for you guys. Love, peace, and hair grease, y'all.
Bear down, baby.
Peace.